Wind River is a mystery crime drama that came out in 2017 and is written and directed by Taylor Sheridan. So Wind River is a film that I'm reviewing because it's a $50 Patreon request, and this $50 Patreon request comes from my cousin Christian Munoz. He's been a long-time supporter of the channel since the dark ages, and I really appreciate that man so much. And I believe this is the 4th film now that he's requested that has Elizabeth Olsen in it. He requested Ingrid Goes West, he requested Silent House, and he requested Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. And honestly, I'm not complaining so far. I've either liked or loved all those films, and I've never really been exposed to Elizabeth Olsen as an actress until he started requesting these films to me. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed with her acting ability so far. Not that she plays that much of a prominent role in this film, she's definitely a supporting role here, but it's just really interesting to see a lot of the films that she was a part of, a lot of the more independent and underground films that she was a part of, before she kind of got lured into the soul-sucking machine that is Hollywood. Sorry, I had to kill a spider. There's tons of spiders in my basement. You see that right there? That's my life right now. But I gotta say, all the films that my cousin has requested to me so far that have Elizabeth Olsen in it, Wind River is my least favorite. I actually feel confident enough to say that I didn't like this film. Now, there are aspects of this film that I did like, but obviously there were more things about this film that I thought were just really unimpressive and let me down in a lot of ways. But first I'll say this about the film. Taylor Sheridan is known to be more of a writer. I don't know how many films he's directed, but I think Wind River might be, at the very least, one of his first feature-length films that he's directed. But he's mostly known as a screenwriter, and he's more respected as a screenwriter. He wrote Sicario, which isn't a bad script. I mean, I think the directing is the best thing about it. But, the script isn't bad. He also wrote Hell or High Water, which is a film that I really like quite a bit. Never really talked about it like that on this channel, but Hell or High Water, at least from what I remember from it, I watched it like 4 or 5 years ago, is a pretty good film. And I think the writing here is one of the better aspects of it, because even though I don't think the writing is great, I think the screenplay in and of itself is solid enough to make something that is a pretty good film. It's just that, unfortunately, I don't think that the direction or the vision behind this, if you want to even say that there is a vision behind this, really elevated the material at all. If anything, it actually kind of brought it down a peg. Before I really start going down that road, a few other things that I did like about it was the acting, obviously. I think Elizabeth Olsen is also great in this film. She didn't have that much screen time here, but she does a good job at really making you believe that she is his character and is not someone that is just acting. And I feel that she has a lot of charisma on camera. And I can see it being a bit more difficult for her to embody her role here because she's playing a federal investigative agent. And I don't think that's something that she's really ever tackled before. Jeremy Renner is also in this film. He's basically the main character. And, he's good enough to be the main role. The film, I don't think, really demanded that much out of him in terms of his performance. But, he was good enough for the film. And I also think most of the Native American actors that are in this film did a pretty great job as well. And another aspect of this film that I actually liked was just the topic that it chooses to center around. Because the main subject of this film, I think, is an incredibly important and real subject in American society. Nobody really talks about this, but Native American women are raped more than any other demographic in this country. And they also, I believe, disappear more than any other demographic as well. And I feel like this film does at least shed light to this really important and tragic topic that I think should be talked about a lot more than what it is. So I do appreciate the film for that. And there's also one scene in particular, that I thought in terms of direction and vision was actually really effective, and it's the most grittiest scene in the film. There's just this horrifying depiction of rape that happens, I think, the midway point of this film, And it, to me, was by far the most effective part of the film. And, you know, it's not just because there's a shocking thing happening on screen that makes it effective. I do think that the way it was directed and the way that it was edited together and the way it was all acted really brings the scene to life and does a great job at really demonstrating how horrifying it was. That's really the only scene in the film that I felt had true vision and direction behind it. Because the rest of this film has incredibly conventional and bland direction. The film doesn't really do anything special behind the camera. There's essentially zero personality behind the camera. And the film just has this horrible habit of cutting every second. There's normal scenes where characters are just having a conversation and it'll cut like 10 to 15 times and there's really no point of it. It doesn't enhance the intensity of the scene for any particular reason. It's not trying to, you know, encapsulate or envelop this really fast-paced kind of style or energy. And it just seems like the director for every single scene would just pick the most conventional angles and set all the cameras up that way, and then in the editing room, just splice it all together. And maybe if the script was incredibly strong, I'd be able to kind of like not be so bothered by it. But since the script, you know, isn't really anything that's that amazing, it's basically just passable and it's fine. It makes it to where these things that are meant to elevate elements of the script just aren't present, and it makes it kind of a drag to get through. The camera style throughout this film kind of has this wobbly handheld effect to it that to me just didn't enhance anything at all. It just didn't seem that there was any real kind of intention behind it, which is really bothersome as I was watching it. And also the score to this film is really annoying. And honestly, was something that dragged the film down arguably the most, because it's not that the score itself is like terrible, even though I think it is like incredibly conventional and bland. Like it just sounds like a score that came out of a conveyor belt or something. But it's more of how it's incorporated, because there are many moments in this film where you get a decent scene of some mild drama, and right in the middle of the scene you get this really bland score just overpowering the scene, and it just immediately makes the scene flaccid, and it's something that just immediately takes you out of the film. And I actually think I could have liked this film if this score wasn't present. Honestly, you could have took the score out of the entire film, and just on that alone, I probably would have liked it. So overall, I'm going to give Wind River a soft 5 out of 10. Yeah, unfortunately, this film just didn't really do it for me. Taylor Sheridan, at this point, I definitely consider him a lot stronger of a writer than he is a director. And I hope, hopefully, with his next project, I don't know if he has a next project planned or anything, but if he ever does make another film, I hope that he develops more of a sense of style and makes directing choices that I feel like are truly coming from him. But, I mean, I'm really curious to hear what everybody else has to say about this film. I think reviews of this film are mostly positive, so I might be going against the grain on this one. But either way, those are my thoughts on Wind River. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about Wind River, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.